Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. Today it's tank review time again. I know you love them. Today we're going to be looking at this tank, the STA-1. This is the Japanese Tier 8 medium tank. I have not had this tank for very long. In fact, this is the newest tank in my garage. But it didn't take me long to come to an opinion of how I think this tank performs and what I think this tank can do. I've only played 12 games in this tank, and I love it already. I wasn't entirely sure why I loved the tank. In order to figure out why I think this is a great tank, I had to actually come to do this review and compare it to the other Tier 8 mediums, and that's when it struck me why I managed to do well in this tank. It is very, very similar to a lot of the other Tier 8 mediums. As a group of tanks, the Tier 8 mediums across the board are very similar tanks. The STA-1, the Centurion 1, the M26 Pershing, the T-44. A lot of them share some very, very similar characteristics. I'll show you the sort of thing I mean by comparing the STA-1 against some of the other Tier 8 mediums that I own, like the M26 Pershing and the Mark 1 Centurion. You're going to see that there's not a lot, on paper, not a lot to separate these tanks out. And there they are. So we've got the STA-1, the M26 Pershing, and the Centurion Mark 1. Now, the STA-1 was, it even says here, the first Japanese post-war tank was developed on the basis of US vehicles like the M26 Pershing. So it's going to be unsurprising that these two tanks are very similar. As far as hit points and health goes, they're all pretty much the same. 1440, bottom end there for the Pershing, 1450, top end there for the Centurion, and the STA-1, also with 1450. Nothing to choose from between them. The STA-1 is a much lighter tank than the other two, however. It only weighs 34 tons, versus 43 for the Pershing and 45 for the Centurion. However, it definitely has the weakest engine. It's only a 570 horsepower engine. Pershing has 704, the Centurion 750. But because of the low weight of the STA-1, it actually compares very, very favourably in power to weight ratio. The Pershing is actually the worst. The Pershing has a power to weight ratio of 16.23, which is good. But the Centurion has a power to weight ratio, despite being the heavier of the three tanks, of 16.53. Equally, despite the fact that the STA-1 has the weediest engine of all three, the power to weight ratio is almost, it's just a fraction, not quite as good as the Centurion with 16.51. It's a very good power to weight ratio, which means that, like the Centurion, this tank is very, very quick on the move. From a standing start, it moves forward quickly, it moves backwards quickly. It's a very, very good feature to have on a dogfighting, brawling, fast, flanking medium tank, which is exactly what this thing is. The top speed is also in the same ballpark as the other three. The Pershing is the fastest at 48 km per hour, the Centurion is the slowest at 40 km per hour, the STA-1 45. So 5 km per hour faster than the Centurion, 3 km per hour slower than the Pershing. But where the STA-1 really, really shines is the fact that in combination with that very, very impressive power to weight ratio, it has a very, very good hull traverse and turret traverse, easily better than the other two. The hull turns at 44 degrees per second. The Pershing only manages 38, which is still pretty good, and the Centurion 36. The turret, it's equally good, 42 degrees per second turret traverse, whereas the Pershing has 38 and the Centurion only has 36. So it's that combination of great power to weight ratio combined with very, very good close quarters mobility, maneuverability, and the ability to keep the turret pointed at whatever tank you're dogfighting with, is what sets the STA-1 apart from the other Tier 8 mediums. It even has a better rate of fire with its 90mm gun, 8 rounds per minute, versus the 7.32 on the Pershing and the 7.5 on the Centurion. As far as view range and signal range are concerned, again, they're all pretty much the same. 390 on the STA-1, 400 on the other two, and they all basically have the same signal range. There's only a 5 meter difference on the Pershing. The others both have 750. Of course, there is a downside. And while none of these tanks are particularly well armoured, the STA-1 is particularly badly armoured. The armour on this tank is just appallingly bad. The Pershing and the Centurion both have pretty good gun mantlets and generally pretty good turret fronts all round, which means that you can usually get these tanks hull down and count on being able to bounce a couple of shots using the turret front. That's not really something you can count on in the STA-1. It will happen, but it's not something you should rely on. The armour on this tank is just atrociously bad, and we're going to flash up Tank Inspector and I'll show you just exactly how atrociously bad the armour on this tank really is. The armour stats of this tank are terrible on paper, but they're not even as good as the stats tell you in the garage. The front of the hull is 45mm thick on the upper glacis and 50mm thick on the lower glacis, so that's actually quite surprising, but it's not going to do you any good because it's still only 50mm. It's one of those weird tanks that actually has stronger lower glacis armour than upper glacis armour, but they're both terrible anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The turret front, 70mm. The gun mantlet isn't bad though. It is all spaced armour, which is 124mm in this sort of T-shaped strip running across the middle and to the top of the gun, and then 90mm thick with 40mm of armour behind it everywhere else on the gun mantlet. But the rest of the turret is just hopeless. It's 40mm there, it's 60mm there, and the tank stats in the garage telling you that the side armour of the turret is 60mm thick. Well, 60mm is nothing to shout about, but even that's a lie. Yeah, it's 60mm here and here, but it's 40mm everywhere else. And the easiest part of the turret to hit from the side is this big bit sticking out of the back, and that's 40mm. So, rear of the turret, 35. Rear of the hull, 20. 25 there. Again, you know, the stats in the garage say, oh, the rear hull armour is 25mm thick. Yeah, in this little bit here, the easiest part to hit is 20. So, yeah, the armour on this tank is trash. It is just absolutely garbage. There are tier 2 tanks that could kill this thing if it wasn't allowed to fire back. But, you know, this is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it is a bad thing, but you have to drive the tank accordingly. If you know that everything that shoots at you is going to penetrate you and do damage, then you drive the tank in a certain way. If you're driving the Centurion and you know that you can bounce shots off your gun mantlet if you get the thing hull down, then you drive the tank into positions where you try to get it hull down, same with the Pershing, and then you get very, very frustrated and angry when somebody penetrates you anyway. With this tank, you don't even try. You just know. If they can see you, they can hurt you. And so you don't take the risks that you would driving the STA-1, that you would if you were driving the Centurion or the Pershing. So, yes, armour. A bit of a joke. And yet, I have had people shoot me. You know, you could shoot this tank anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. Except for this bit here, right above the gun barrel. Whereas the single strongest armour on the tank, it's spaced armour with turret armour behind it. And the amount of times that is exactly where people have shot me, I'm certainly not complaining about it, but I guess what I'm saying is that, yeah, you are going to bounce shots when people shoot at you in this tank, but you absolutely shouldn't expect it to happen. Not in the way that you can afford to take chances with the Centurion and the Pershing. As for the gun, well, certainly the last gun that you unlock on this tank is good news. It's a very, very good gun. It compares very favourably to the 90mm gun on the Pershing, and very favourably to the 20-pounder gun on the Centurion. Just pick the right Centurion. There we go, the 20-pounder Type A barrel. It's a very good gun, no question about it. It's not bad at all. The rate of fire is excellent, 8 rounds per minute. The Pershing only gets 7.32. The 20-pounder on the Centurion, 7.5. The penetration is also perfectly good, 218. Way better than the appalling penetration of 180 on the Pershing. Not quite as good as the 226 on the 20-pounder. Average damage is effectively the same as the others, 240, same as on the Pershing, 10 better than the 230 on the 20-pounder. So it has much better DPM than the 20-pounder on the Centurion. It's got a better rate of fire and does more damage. It's not quite as accurate, however. 0.36 accuracy is alright, but it's nowhere near as great as the 0.33 on the 20 pounder, and better, although not much better, than the 0.37 on the Pershing. Aiming time across the board for all three is exactly the same, 2.3 seconds. Where the Pershing, this gun here on the Pershing, shines is if you use a PCR premium ammo. That gives this thing 268mm of penetration, which is just absurdly good. The thing about the 20 pounder and the Type 61 90mm gun is that you just don't need to use premium ammunition in the way that it can be argued you do with the Pershing. I personally don't use premium ammo with the Pershing. I've never really felt the need for it, and I do alright in the Pershing, but I can certainly appreciate why a lot of people would. The penetration with the it's high explosive anti-tank ammo, actually, for the STA-1's gun is 275, but it's high explosive anti-tank ammo. It tends just, don't shoot it at spaced surfaces or sloped surfaces, because it just loves to bounce off things like that. But you're never really going to need to use heat ammo on this tank anyway. 218mm of penetration with that kind of accuracy and that rate of fire is fine. So the gun is alright. It's a good gun. Unfortunately, the biggest problem that you're going to have with the STA-1 is getting that gun. And if we have a look at the research tree, you'll see why. In a lot of tanks, in fact, I'll show you the sort of thing I'm talking about here. If you look at the Centurion, for example, there we go, the Centurion 1. The British tanks are like this. The American tanks tend to be like this as well. You reuse a lot of the modules. You unlock these things on other tank lines and previous tanks on the same line. If we have a look at the Rolls-Royce Meteor Mark 4B engine, for example, look at all the different tanks that's used on. Cromwell, Carnarvon, Conqueror, Comet, Centurion 7, Centurion 1, FV3805, even use it on artillery, the FV207. If you look at the 20 pounder gun, or the 17 pounder, it's used on the Black Prince, the Carnarvon and the Centurion. If you've gone down the British heavy tank line, you'll already have that gun. The 20 pounder Type A barrel, same again. If you've gone down the British heavy tank line, you will already have that gun. There are all kinds of shortcuts when you're developing and unlocking modules on your German tanks, sorry, not your German, on your British tanks, for example. Although, you get this on a lot of the Germans as well. Particularly with regards to the engines and the 88 and 75mm guns. You get this with the 90mm guns on the Americans, and so on and so on and so on. You don't get that with the STA-1. There are so many modules on this tank that are only used on this tank. It is one of the worst grinds in the game. That gun is good news. It's a good gun. Unfortunately, in order to get that gun, you're going to have to use this one. The stock gun on the STA-1, which is only used on the STA-1, only has 155mm of penetration and 0.38 accuracy. The next gun, which is going to cost you 19,000 experience, is, well, it's not a bad gun. It's no worse than the gun on the Pershing, than the best gun on the Pershing. But it's not particularly good either. And that's going to cost you 19,000 experience. The next thing is the turret. Now the turret is good. The turret gives you 10 degrees of gun depression on this tank. Until you unlock this turret, the gun depression on this tank isn't bad, but it's certainly not great. This turret is going to cost you another 17,000 experience, and then you can finally start unlocking this 90mm gun, which is going to cost you 41,000 experience. You can't even reuse the radio. That radio is only used on the STA-1 and the Type 61, which comes after the STA-1. This engine is the same deal. You will not have already unlocked that engine. There is absolutely nothing on this tank, when you unlock the tank, that you're going to have already unlocked from previous tank lines. Every single thing that you upgrade on this tank, you're going to have to do the hard way, or spend an awful lot of free XP. This is not a very good tank until you have fully upgraded it. I would recommend you leave the engine till last. It's a 570 horsepower engine. The stock engine is a 500 horsepower engine. Power to weight ratio is still going to be reasonably good with the stock engine. In fact, the engine and the radio. Pick your probably go for the engine and then the radio. This radio has a 720 meter signal range. You only get an extra 30 meters with this one. The grind on this tank is going to be painful. You do need to be aware of that. It is not going to be fun. I skipped most of this, as you can probably tell. I've only played 12 games in this, and I've already unlocked everything. I skipped most of this with free XP. Not everybody is going to have that luxury. You're not going to enjoy driving this tank until it's fully upgraded. Having said that, however, let's have a look at some replays, because when this thing is fully upgraded, it is a joy to drive. This was around about the 5th or 6th game that I played in the STA-1, and it was the first game I played with the top 90mm gun and the upgraded turret. I don't have the radio yet, I don't have the engine yet. As you can see, not having the engine isn't really hurting this tank. It's still pretty damn mobile. And as you saw from the starting screen, XVM is giving us a 72% chance of winning this match, and that basically means that I'm going to have to be aggressive if I want to get any damage done in this match, because our team is just that much better than the enemy team. And that's all down to the top 4 players on our team. As you can see there, everybody has way better than 50% win rate, and we're all in top tier tanks. So I'm going to have to push. At the same time, I've never played with this turret, I've never played with this gun before, so I'm going to be a bit cautious at the start. Also conscious of the fact that I have no armour. Just because XVM is saying you've got a 72% chance to win, that doesn't mean that your tank suddenly gains more armour than you think it has. You still can't afford to take hits. First target up. Yep, gun performing as advertised. Back up, don't have the sixth sense, only played 12 games in this tank. Until proven otherwise, just assume you've been spotted. Take another blind shot at where that Panther was. Don't appear to have hit him. Move up again. Notice I can't see through this bush. I'm not the one doing the spotting here, so I shouldn't be spotted when I fire. That one missed. And now this is where I really should start moving up. The battle's getting too far ahead of me. Put another one into that Panther. Set him on fire. He manages to extinguish the fire, but he's screwed. I should start moving now. Oh, wait, we're being flanked. T-71. Alright, finish him off and then catch up with the rest of the team. He's not interested in shooting at me. That makes a pleasant change. Am I going to get the kill? Nope, not going to get the kill. Doesn't matter, put 2 shots into him. Right, team are racing ahead, need to catch up. Want to get as much damage done as possible, as you know, as you should be trying to do in every game you play. And I know that, oh, RT fired and missed. Always nice. You know, I know how good the team is, or I know how good XVM is rating the team, and you can use that to dictate how you're going to play the match. And you're going to see examples of this in the following 2 videos as well. Finally caught up with a front line. Tank destroyer fired and missed. Got a good hit in. The gun depression on this thing is very, very good with that top turret. The old Stuart Mill over there also has very, very good gun depression. I'm not entirely sure exactly how much. I think it's the same as this, 10 degrees. He's decided he's had enough. He's running for it. Can't really blame him. Decide, okay, keep moving. Artillery are going to be getting very, very nervous now. At the same time, I don't want to get hit by that guy if I can at all avoid it, so I'm going to use the terrain. And oh, didn't quite kill him. Got a decent damage roll though. He's fired, he's going to get away. Not going to get the second shot off. Killed the guy beside me. I'm now pretty much alone up here. There is backup coming from behind me, but there are at least 2 enemy tanks here. Oh, artillery's taking him out. Good stuff. And bang, there he is. T-34. I've got a lot more health than he does. And, you know, I don't really need to worry about angling the armour with this tank. Oh, wow. Yep, he hit me with high explosive, and it did practically no damage. He could have given me significant problems. T-34 does a lot of damage with that big old gun, but time after time after time, and this was the first time I saw it happen. People see this tank, they know it has terrible armour, they load high explosive thinking they're going to get a monster damage roll, and then it doesn't penetrate. And this was the first time I'd seen it happen, but it's not going to be the last time. You're going to see it happen again in the following replays. And you know what? The enemy team didn't do that badly. Certainly not down at this end of the map. There's only me and a 110 left alive down here. For a bunch of below average win rate players, they certainly put up a good fight. Now then, am I going to get me some arty kills? You know I do love me some arty kills. There's two of them. Take a pot shot at the... oh, he's dead. Oh, they've killed Sir Foch. Wow. Alright, vengeance for Foch. Arty killed Foch. And they're not over here, so that means there's only one place they're going to be. Arty's all that's left. Get that high explosive loaded. Panther's rushing in there. He wants to kill them just as much as I do. Who's going to get the fire first? Oh, there's one. Oh, yeah, I got the kill. Hey. Is the Panther going to get it, or am I going to get it? Yay, 2 arty kills. Oh, the best kind of kills. So, my first game in the STA-1 with the upgraded turret and the top gun. And, you know, any tank that I can use to earn more XP than Circumflexes or Foch in a battle is a tank that I suddenly developed a lot of interest in. This was my first good game in the STA-1. And you're probably not going to have good games in the STA-1 until you've got that gun and that turret. Certainly not the last good game I had in the STA-1, however. Next up, we've got 2 games that I played today, back to back. As you can see, I'm not platooned. And as you can also see, XVM doesn't really rate my team's chances of winning this one. It's a 31% predicted chance of winning. And once again, you see, I never used to run with XVM stats enabled. I couldn't handle the crushing sense of disappointment at seeing right now at the start of the game that we're probably going to lose. And I say probably going to lose. It's a 31% chance to win, not a 0% chance to win. But in order to win this match, somebody was going to have to pull a Pools medal out of their arse. So we're probably going to lose. The only reason I'm using XVM now is because with the latest version of XVM in patch 9.0, they changed something about it that made it impossible to edit your XVM configuration using the online XVM configuration editor at the XVM website. So I was forced to play World of Tanks with the stats enabled, and I got used to it. Rather than being one of those douchebags who runs with XVM and sees a 31% chance win rate battle pop up and uses that as an excuse to belittle and humiliate his team in chat, or just quit the battle entirely, I use XVM now to tell me how I should be playing the game. The previous match, we had a very, very good chance of winning. I had to be as aggressive as possible in order to do any kind of damage. In this match, we've got a very, very good chance of losing. I need to keep my gun in play, keep firing at targets as often as I possibly can, do as much damage as I possibly can, while keeping my tank alive in order to get anything out of this game. Fortunately, with my team milling around in the open, frantically taking hits from left, right and centre... Oh, I've set him on fire, that's nice. All these enemy tanks, and I got the kill, are giving their positions away by firing through cover at all of these tanks in front of me, and I can capitalise on that to do a lot of damage. No shortage of targets, keeping an eye on the map, don't particularly want to get outflanked. Having a quick look around, there's an A44 over there. This Tiger P's taking hits now, so yeah. I'm going to get the hell out of here. A44 up there. And you may not have noticed, I certainly didn't notice while I was playing the game. I had other things on my mind. But there's a T26E3 in this match. Yep, that's right. I know you've never heard of the T26E3. It's a new premium tank. It's not in the game yet. That's a super tester playing a T26E3 on the live server. It's there on the enemy team. Tiger P next to me was taking far too many hits, so I knew that the position I was in there was very likely to become compromised very, very quickly. Spotted KV4. You get into a game like this, a lot of people start switching to premium ammo when they see a KV4. It pisses me off no end when I'm driving a KV4, but there's no need for it. Just aim for his weak spots. Took the tracks off the STA-100. Do not want to get hit by his gun. He fires, he misses. Pop up, take a shot. Couldn't tell at the time whether he had the 100 or the 122mm guns. I didn't want to hang around to see if I could beat his reload, but I can easily get another shot in through the archers there. KV4's turned back up. Go for the reload. Oh, there's an IS-3 behind us. I'll pop one into the KV4. And I need to start worrying about this IS-3. Now, this IS-2 driver was one of the better players on our team. And I'm going to use him as armour to help him out with the IS-3. That KV4 is coming, but we can only deal with one tank at a time. Unfortunately, the IS-3 is taking hits, and not just... Sorry, the IS-2 is taking hits, and not just from the IS-3. There's some flanking fire coming in there as well. He's gone. Tanks are behind me. He's only on 1 health. I try to ram him, but it's never going to happen. Finish him off. Turn around, KV4 behind me. I'm taking hits from multiple directions. Oh, no, couldn't quite get any more damaging. Need to get around this KV4, use him as cover from the rest of his team. I'll probably get one more shot off. There it is, and bang, dead. So, thanks to XVM, knew in advance that we were probably going to lose this game. And rather than having it catch me by surprise, as my team just evaporated around me, which would have been the case if I hadn't been using XVM, instead used that knowledge to play the game accordingly, kept the tank in play as long as I possibly could, supported the most useful teammates as much as I could, and just kept the gun firing, and did almost 2,800 damage in a very, very quick loss. Would normally have been raging about this kind of result. But because XVM had forewarned me that there was not much chance of winning this match, it kind of prepared me for the butt-reaming that was about to commence, and did the best that I could. And that's all you can really ask of yourself. As long as you have done more than the health of your tank in damage, then you've had a decent game. As long as your ratio of damage done to damage received is positive, then nobody can really ask more of you than that. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this was by no means an unwinnable match, but in order for that to be a victory, somebody on our team was going to have to pull a Radley Walters or a Pools medal out of their arse, and I'm just not that good. Nevertheless, I do feel that I got my money's worth out of the tank, and I certainly felt that the tank was punching above its weight, even on this horrible defeat. Final replay of the review. This was the very next game that I played, and this time it's given me a team that XVM estimates has a 68% chance of winning. So, as in the first game, I'm going to need to get stuck in order to have any kind of influence in this match. And it's Prokhorovka and its encounter, and the game has put all of the medium and light tanks over on this side of the map, as far away from the hill as they can get, and still be on Prokhorovka, and all the tank destroyers right next to the railway embankment. So yeah, World of Tanks, you so silly. So I'm going to need to haul ass. Now the tank will do 45 kilometers per hour, which is not slow, but it could be faster, and there's a nasty danger that I'm going to get caught and exposed in the open as I rush for the hill. The difference in this game is that I do know that a lot of the players on my team can be relied upon to back me up. And that's what makes what you're about to see all the more surprising, because I'm the only person on my team who goes for the hill. Well, that's not strictly true. There's a Super Pershing on the team who also goes for the hill, but he's in a Super Pershing. He's never going to get up there in time, and I end up being the only tank on my team that makes it up to the hill. The enemy team, yeah, just watch how this one pans out. This one took me by surprise in a number of ways. There's an ISU over there who has been spotted. So, well, it'd be rude not to shoot at him. And I do get 2 good hits into him before he pulls back. And then head up the hill again. Now, I'm taking a sort of circuitous route up here. I'm taking the scenic route because just driving straight up there I will get spotted by enemy tanks pushing up along the line of the railway embankment, and this tank has no armour. You can see the Super Pershing behind me there. He's never going to make it up here in time. Now notice this sort of depression that I'm about to drive into right here. This spot here is invaluable if you're attacking from this side, as you're going to see in a moment. That sort of hollow in the ground there is going to be very, very useful. Take a shot at the Borsig, and it bounces. You lucky German bastard. And now here come the enemy team. And it's right now where I'm realising, why am I alone up here? But they haven't seen me yet. So I get one into the AMX-48. He turns around. I don't know if they've seen me or not. I stick around. He hits me. And he's firing high explosive. I told you it wouldn't be the last time you saw somebody do that. And he also managed to hit me smack bang on the gun mantlet right above the gun, the single strongest piece of armour on the tank. I'll take a speculative shot at the turret hatch cover on the top of the IS-3 there. I didn't expect it to go through, but I'm just trying to keep their head down. And here they come. Now this is the spot. Watch this. Again, a bounce. All they can hit is, I mean, they should be aiming for my commander's hatch, but they keep aiming for the gun mantlet. And the T-34-3 there does not have the gun depression to hit me here. The gun depression on that tank is terrible. In this patch of low ground here, I am perfectly safe from flanking fire of any enemy tanks over on the right. And while I'm lighting all these guys up, the rest of my team are putting some good long-range fire into them. The IS-3 finally realises that he's got to go for it. The AMX-48 is still firing high explosive. I take my time and I make sure this guy dies. The T-25-2 comes rushing over. The T-34-3 stays up top. Both of these guys fire and miss. I realise that shooting the T-25-2, I need to kill the IS-3 first, so finish him off. And then I start putting the manoeuvrability and the agility of this tank to work. Good enough to beat the turret traverse of a T-25-2. The T-34-3 up there, with his terrible gun depression, has been completely ineffective the entire game. To the best of our knowledge, he's the last enemy tank up there, and I'll take the Pepsi challenge in an STA-1 against the T-34-3 any day of the week. I'm not quite sure what happened here. He just wasn't showing up as a target. Possibly I was aiming too high, but I'll take his tracks off, and I'm going to slow this down here. People often ask me to do a T-34-3 review. This is my T-34-3 review. I'm on lower ground than him. Look at the gun depression. He cannot shoot me. That shot sailed right over the back of this tank. The T-34-3's gun depression is terrible. And it's not just the gun depression. I've shot him. Watch how many times I shoot this guy before he can reload his gun. He got one shot into me as I came over the ridge. From that point on, he couldn't touch me. And I hit him 4 times. He was never more than 30 metres away from me, and he just couldn't put a shot into me. That's what I think of the T-34-3. And that's why I love the STA-1. Ferdinand over there, of course. I can see his outline, but I don't know which way he's facing, so I'm using the T-34-3 as cover, and then bang. There's the game-winning shot. So that was the second game in the STA-1 that I played today. No platoon mates to back me up. Terrible team. Doesn't matter. Still did 3,000 damage. No platoon mates to back me up. Great team. Doesn't matter. Still did 3,000 damage. I love the consistency of this tank. So, the STA-1, Japanese Tier 8 medium tank. It's not going to be a pleasant grind. I've only played 12 games in this tank, and I already love it, but most of those 12 games, this tank was played fully upgraded. I tried sticking it out with the stock gun. That monstrosity. I had to admit defeat after just a couple of games. I unlocked the top turret and the top gun with free XP. Now, not everybody is going to be in the position where they're able to do that, and if so, you have my sympathies. This is not going to be a pleasant experience, but when you get there, this tank is worth it. Fully upgraded, this tank is fantastic. I say it's fantastic. It suits my playstyle. It may not necessarily suit your playstyle, but hopefully I have shown you enough of how this tank performs in the replays that you will be able to make your own decision based upon how you know you like to drive your tanks, and will be able to tell for yourself whether or not this tank is for you. This is all I try to do in my tank reviews. I love it because fully upgraded, this thing plays, for me, kind of like a Cromwell, the British Tier 6 medium. It certainly doesn't have the raw top speed of the Cromwell, but it's got that same kind of dogfighting, aggressive, getting stuck in and just taking it to the enemy feel that I get when I'm playing the Cromwell as well, and to a lesser degree the Comet. If you like those tanks, you're probably going to like a fully upgraded STA-1. Getting the thing fully upgraded, on the other hand, is going to be painful unless you're prepared to throw substantial amounts of free experience at it, but it will be worth it. I do think it's a good tank, and it's probably shaping up to be my favourite Tier 8 medium. So there you go, the STA-1, Japanese Tier 8 medium tank. I've had a lot of fun driving it, and I am looking forward to have even more fun driving it in the future. As always folks, take care on that battlefield, and I'll catch you next time.